Okay, once again, welcome back to another edition of the long time news review right here on Star TV with my very self, Sarah Kamara. In today's edition, we'll be giving you a roundup of our main stories that took place on Star TV. We'll also be talking to the CEO and founder of Zoom Wireless Gambia. As you already know, there are things that we have said in the newspaper regarding them kicking start their business with Sonatel, and then the Ministry of Information yesterday did answer a question regarding that. So we have the CEO right here with us. We'll be discussing with him. But before that discussion, we just give you a roundup of our main stories. As COVID-19 continues to negatively impact all sectors in the country, the fishing industry is about to go down as fish scarcity has immensely hit the Gambia due to majority of the fishermen being stuck in Senegal as a result of COVID-19 pandemic restrictions such as border closure. Our reporter Maria Madem tells us more.
According to some vendors and fishermen, the recent fish scarcity in the country is mainly caused by the COVID-19 restrictions, as fishing boats are only allowed to operate in the evening instead of the morning. The Chinese fishing boats in the sea cause problems for our fishermen, as well as the lack of price control in the fishing industry. Fatu is a fish trader who comes all the way from Bundung Bohol to Tanje to find fish in order to resell them in the local markets to feed her family. However, she said that they are facing lots of difficulties due to the lack of fish caused by the COVID-19 restriction, such as the closure of fishing centers in the morning.
This is what I do for a living, and it is all I have as I feed my family from it. The difficulties we face these days are unbearable. One is the closure of the fishing centers in the morning. Second is the boats. When they go into the sea, they don't come back. Third is the increase in price. When you put in your money, it leads to losses only.
Usman Conte, who is also a fish trader, lamented on the negative impacts of the border closure toward this current predicament. However, anonymous fishermen who don't want to be on camera says that the border closure is the main problem to the current situation, as majority of the fishermen are stuck in Senegal and they can't come back due to the border closure. Fatu, alongside Usman and other fish traders and fishermen, appealed to the government to open the borders for the fishermen stuck in Senegal to come back so that the country can come out of this dilemma. After speaking to some fish traders, it's like majority of the fishermen in the country are foreigners. Now the questions one must ask are, where are the Gambian fishermen? Are Gambians not involved in fishing? Or are foreigners the only people given the priority to fish in the Gambian Sea? Maria Madem, reporting for Star TV News.
That was our reporter Maria Madem talking to fishermen there regarding the skyrocketing prices of fish. Meanwhile, the assistant spokesperson of the Alliance for Patriotic Reorientation and Construction has accused the Barrow-led government of planning to cheat in the upcoming presidential election in 2021. He said this as a result of the extension of the economic mission in the country. Ija made this accusation in an interview with our reporter Zaglin Kohli, and she now reports.
The deputy spokesman of the opposition party, APRC, said that he feels that the extension of the economic mission in the Gambia is political and a waste of resources. Jah stressed that before the president could have extended the mission of the economic in the Gambia, as per the laws of the country, he should have tabled the idea to the National Assembly before embarking on the main deal of extending their mission, which to him proves political and a waste of resources, and more reason for him to believe that the NPP plans to rig the upcoming elections. Meanwhile, upon arrival at the Banjul International Airport, President Barrow, after attending the 57 ordinary sessions of the ECOWAS in Niamey, Niger, said that the security sector is on the top of the agenda of his led government for peace and stability to reign. Replying to that, Durja had this to say.
Mandate in its first place, per the laws of the Gambia, the president himself should have taken it to parliament. It should be an act of parliament to have economic stay in this country. But all that is happening, it's personal. They're talking about stabilizing internal security within the country, which is absolutely not happening at all. And the president feels he's secure with the economic around him. they're not securing the Gambian people. Anything to deal with internal security, they say it's not ECOMIC's mandate. Coupled with, for the past months, some MPP members have been coming in the public space saying, at first they started with 70%, that they'll have 70% of the votes. And again, on 2 occasions, they said they're going to have 75% of the votes. Now, looking at the 2016 presidential elections, when we had 7 political parties plus independent candidates, they were able to have 43%. And there's no way possible a single political party in this country can have 75%. And since then, up to date, new political parties has emerged, and more is expected as what the IEC is relating to people. And no political party comes into the political scene and have 0. So the numbers are going to decline. An election is all about numbers. We have seen it happen repeatedly in several countries. Just the last elections in Senegal, they used the same tactic, eyeing or targeting a certain percentage that's what Macky would win, and that's how it ended at the end of the day. So these and based of a couple of other issues, that's why I said they're planning to rig the elections.
In concluding, Jas said that the Gambia needs to be salvaged because he felt that the sovereignty of the country has been compromised in all ways, beneath the economy, fisheries and the tourism sector. Jacqueline Colley, reporting for Star TV News.
Barrow has reiterated that the National People's Party will certainly secure 75% of the votes in the forthcoming 2021 presidential election, and nothing can stop that. Binta Colley has rest of the details.
Dusano responded to claims by Duduja, the APRC deputy spokesperson, who said that the decision by the president to request the extension of the stay of ECOMIC until 2021 is political. Mr. Ja also wondered whether by declaring that they will score the near impossible 75% in 2021, the NPP and government are not planning to reach elections. In response, Dusano said, it is premature for Duduja to imply that the government is planning to reach the 2021 presidential election. Let him come out with his proof or stop false allegations. The time for politics is not yet. So let him wait until the time for politics comes, and then each of us will know our positions. Du, however, added that they remain optimistic that Barrow will pull out 75% of the votes in 2021 because the president is delivering what people expected from him. He further said that anytime Mr. Ja wants to talk about something between President Barrow and APRC, let him always consult his party executives because there is no problem between President Barrow and APRC, except cordial relations, which is also shared with other political parties in the country. On the extension of ECOMIC mandate, Mr. Sano said that it has nothing to do with the 2021 election because Gambia's election is owned by Gambians themselves. He asked whether Mr. Ja would call the recent deployment of Gambian soldiers to Sudan as political. He should understand that ECOMIC has its own body with its own funding. So let him not mix our politics with ECOMIC, he added. Adding that they have nothing to do with ECOMIC, something happened in the country which was why ECOMIC came here. There is something also happening in Sudan, and that is why our Gambian soldiers go there for peacekeeping. But they never talk about that. So why are they always talking about this, he asked. For Star TV News, I am Binta Colley.
Commission, CRC, has successfully completed a nationwide distribution of audio-visual format of the draft constitution to regional authorities and community radio stations. The 4-day exercise began on Monday, 31st August to Thursday, 3rd September 2020. Dado Cham has rest of the details.
The purpose of the translation of the draft constitution is a fulfillment of the promise that the CRC made to Gambians during the public consultations to have the draft constitution translated into the local languages to enhance citizens' understanding and awareness of the contents of the draft constitution. Delivering on this promise, the Commission has of recent translated the contents of 20 chapters of the draft constitution into the following languages: Mandinka, Fula, Wolof, Jola, Manjago, Seril, Sarahule, Aku, and Gambian Sign Language for the hard of hearing. There is also Braille and a Gambian Sign Language version of the draft constitution for the visually impaired and at the hard of hearing. The contents of the translated chapters of the draft constitution in audiovisual format contained in flash drives was distributed to the general populace through their regional authorities and information dissemination outlets such as governors, offices, chiefs, area councils, and community radios. The CRC therefore encourages the public to access and listen to these translated versions of the draft constitution to deepen their understanding of its contents. The draft constitution, in all manner and shape, is people-centered, and this is made possible by the overwhelming participation and involvement of Gambians from all walks of life during the consultation process. Furthermore, the Commission has also distributed copies of the draft constitution to senior secondary schools across the country. As integral stakeholders in developing the draft constitution, the senior secondary schools have been provided with copies of the draft constitution to enable them to learn and strengthen their understanding on the constitutional matters contained in and to enhance their ownership of the document. Gambians hail the CRC for not only fulfilling its promise, but also providing the draft constitution in their mother tongue. Recipients of the documents commended the CRC for a job well done, saying it will have a far-reaching impact on the people in terms of dispelling misinformations and misrepresentations of facts about the contents of the draft constitution. The CRC enjoins the Gambian public to access this translated audio recordings of the draft constitution in 8 different languages to reinforce their understanding of its provisions. It is only through this way that we can collectively protect and inform on the draft constitution in its pristine form. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Dado Cham.
Meanwhile, in another development regarding the draft constitution, deliberation at the National Assembly were characterized by tension and suspense as members scrutinized the draft new constitution with its continuous and controversial clauses. The nation will now wait at least till on Monday to know the fate of this most important document. Some of the hottest topics included the presidential term limit, citizenship, and secularism. Maria Madam reports.
The 51 deputies who turned up at the assembly debated on the general merits and principles of the bill to be followed by a vote at which 3/4 of the members will be required to vote yes before the bill can proceed to the next stage of the process. On the issue of citizenship, the member for Wuli West, Sidia Jata, insisted there should not be any resistance to people born in the country from automatically becoming Gambians, as opposed to Chapter 4 of the draft, which says children born in the country are only qualified to be citizens if their parents or grandparents are Gambians. He said Gambians like to enjoy international standards, but they don't want to reciprocate that, for they know that Gambian women leave this territory and go to foreign lands in Europe and America to have their children there who get automatic nationality. Why can't we reciprocate that? Our people are enjoying that and we don't want to give that to other people to enjoy, he questioned. Jata also said that the constitution must make it an obligation for lawmakers to begin speaking local languages at the National Assembly. The member for Jara Central, Keba Jalo, contended that the draft constitution is full of cut and paste. Why was the Constitutional Review Commission set up? What surprises me was that the CRC in some instances, while drafting this constitution, will just go directly and cut from the Kenya constitution and paste. I am not disputing the fact that they can go and do their research on various countries' documents as how they work, but cutting and pasting was not the reason why we instituted CRC, he argued. The member for Brikama South, Lamin J. Sane, endorsed the constitution, saying it will promote the principles of good governance. He welcomed parliamentary approval of ministerial appointments, arguing that the ministers have for the past years been dancing to the tunes of the presidents, sometimes agreeing to things that are detrimental to the Gambian people. The member for Serekunda, Halifa Sallah, argued that those who are saying they will not vote for this constitution because it doesn't have secular or it contains Sharia law should rethink. He requested a committee meeting with the drafters to review and consider possible additions and omissions. On the issue of alleged plagiarism of the document, Sallah said The CRC has given references of the consultative process that they have undertaken in order to come up with the draft, and part of that references I can see are 32 Malawi Act, 33 Malawi Constitution and 34 Kenya Constitution. Plagiarism is to quote without making references and ensuring that you give authority where it is due. The member for Brikama North, Alhaji S. Dabo, noted that the CRC has done a good job in drafting a constitution that will stand the test of time. He singled out provisions on Gambia's sovereignty and citizenship as one of the provisions that are clearly spelled out. The objective of the bill is to promulgate the 2020 constitution and to repeal the 1997 one. Mariama Dem, reporting for Star TV News.
Well, meanwhile, His Excellency President Adam Barrow has said that COVID-19 global pandemic has immensely interrupted the rapid growth of the Gambia's economy. He made this remark while delivering the annual State of the Nation address before the National Assembly. Our reporter, Maria Madem, was there and she now reports.
The Nation address brought together all cabinet ministers, different political leaders, religious leaders, National Assembly members, among others, to witness the great occasion as His Excellency President Adam Barrow delivers his government's performance during the course of the last legislative year as mandated by the Constitution. The address mainly focused on the challenges caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and the negative impacts it had on his government as it interrupted its rapid economic and social-political transformation plans. However, Barrow says that this year's address should be appreciated within the context of a unique global pandemic and a crisis of tragic consequences. The pandemic has disrupted all plans and shattered all hopes and expectations.
This is a crisis that has taken the world by storm and remains a threat to all nations, rich and poor, big and small. In the Gambia, the momentum and expectations for rapid progress were evidently very high. Major development projects and achievements closely followed one another. Support and resources were sought and tapped from various sources. The people were politically excited, and my government was optimistic of delivering on our promise of leading the nation to unprecedented economic growth and social regeneration in a democratic haven for all Gambians. Unfortunately, like other nations, we had to curtail certain economic activities, restrict movement, scale down work schedules, and finally declare a state of emergency.
According to the President, the global pandemic has affected the economy and the social lives of all Gambians. Furthermore, the Gambia has been experiencing a slowdown of economic growth due to the reduction of economic activities as a direct result of the COVID-19 pandemic. An initial analysis shows that GDP growth rates this year could decline from 6% to 2%. However, President Barrow explains the consequences of the low GDP analysis ratio caused due to the COVID-19.
The decline in import volumes and economic activities will correspondingly lead to shortfalls in import duties and other tax revenues. Based on the current situation, an estimated 20% of expected revenue will be lost. The total estimated fiscal impact from the decline in import duties and other tax revenues is $2.3 billion. That is 2.4% of GDP. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs projects that the fiscal deficit will widen from 1.5% of GDP to 2.1% of GDP.
President Barrow says the pandemic has negatively impacted on budget execution as approved by the National Assembly.
The government had to resort to cuts and reallocation of funds from line items such as travel, training, and workshops into much needed areas. These decisions were taken to set aside $500 million as emergency funds to cater for prevention, containment, and respond to the pandemic. Certain budgets line expenditures have been reallocated to the Ministry of Health for COVID-19 related expenditures. This decision has affected almost all ministries, departments, and agencies. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs was forced to make further budget cuts in the face of declining revenue in recent months and the expected loss of revenue for the rest of the year.
According to Barrow, with declining revenues and the need to provide humanitarian assistance and support businesses during this period of economic downturn, government is faced with a challenging task for the coming months, and the COVID-19 pandemic will continue to have a significant socio-economic impact on the economy, directly through the effects of the disease on production, investment and trade within the country and between the Gambia and the rest of the world. And indirectly, the impact will be felt through the slowing of global economic growth, supply chain disruptions, and by extension negatively impacting the Gambia's growth prospects. However, President Barrow stressed that there is an imminent threat of a global recession arising from the pandemic, and the extent of this impact is yet to be fully determined. No matter what the impact will be, government has already devised post-pandemic plans to protect lives and livelihoods. Meanwhile, President Barrow assured Gambians that the general election will be conducted in 2021 as scheduled. Mariama Dem, reporting for Star TV News.
Thank you very much. That was Mariama Dem reporting. Those are our main stories during the week right here on Star TV. Now we turn our attention to Mr. Khalifa M. Fall, who is the founder and CEO of Zoom Wireless Gambia. Mr. Fall, you're welcome to Star TV Long-Time News Review.
Thank you. Thank you.
We know that there's a deal between Sonatel of Senegal and Zoom Wireless. I think they acquired 96.6%.
91.6.
Okay, 91.6% of the share capital of Zoom Wireless. But still now, the process is taking long. I think in one of your interviews with the newspapers, you said that even this is a worrying thing for Sonatel.
Like anything, any business that you get into, obviously timelines are very critical. So for us, the worrying thing for me and my partners is, a license is 5-year tenure. You pay a certain amount for it, and you also want to maximize, because as a telecoms company, you cannot just launch on day one. You have to plan your network. Post approval of your deal means that you have to go, sort out finances, set up your team. So it takes a lot. So for us to just sit a year idle also doesn't help, and that's why it's worrying for my partners.
Okay. A question was posed to the Ministry of Information, that is Ibrahim Masila, Honorable Ibrahim Masila, regarding Zoom Wireless and Sonatel. And this was the response yesterday on the sideline of the briefing that the ministry used to do weekly.
Because we, as a ministry, had issued a license to Zoom Wireless, and that license has been with them for more than 1 year. It was almost about to expire. They wrote for an extension, which we gave. And after we gave an extension, then they informed us that after months, they informed us that their business is taken over by Sonatel. I think more than 90% of the business is taken over by Sonatel. So that takeover bid, when they started that process, they went to Pura. Indeed, Pura, agreed after going through the process, and they came to us. But as policy makers, we also have a number of questions, because now we are talking about an international player coming into the data market. And as a ministry, that is in charge of that process, we had to ensure that everything that is coming into this country, you use our national infrastructure. Beyond that, we have also put in place mechanisms to ask other different questions, and we have prepared a cabinet paper, and we submitted this matter to cabinet for approval. So now we are waiting for the cabinet to sit. It is not that the Ministry of Information is sitting on any document. We are not sitting on any document. We did our due diligence on a number of things, and those things were communicated to the owner. So if people are going around to say that we are sitting on, we have already approved this license for more than 3 years. The owners have never deployed. They have never connected a single individual, only for us to hear that they have been taken over by a much bigger player, an international player, and those people are coming into the data market. So if we are coming into the data market, we have to also ensure that a lot of issues are met, and they are aware of this. So we have done our job. We are now waiting for cabinet to sit and then give the final go-ahead.
Please comment.
First of all, I'm just happy to know that it will be decided at cabinet. Even though for me, I think, you know, what he has said, fair enough. When he says that we've not deployed a single customer for years,
yeah,
I just explained to you the process. You know, we're working on an international standard. It's not that I meet Sonatel today, we shake hands on a deal today. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes, and Pura I'm aware. There's a lot of due diligence that was done, both from the investors and also from the regulator. So we went through a whole process of almost a year, 2 years plus, of doing due diligence on the company, on myself, to make sure that Orange is not going to get into a deal that get into a company that's not credible. So that takes time. We communicated that to Pura, and according to the license, we have a specific period of time in which we are to deploy our services. And if we envisage that there's going to be some delays, we should communicate that to the ministry, which we have done. So for the minister to come out and say they have not connected a single customer, I think it beats the point, and it's extremely petty. I don't see the importance of that in terms of why is our document taking a whole year just to get approval. Also, he said that they've communicated to me. I cannot give you a single document that came from the ministry asking me for clarification on specific issues.
Okay, so you are telling me that ministry has never...
They've never written to us, never.
No calls, no documents, nothing?
It's all verbal communications. I don't consider verbal communications as part of communication. I think if you really want to solidify, to make us understand your position, it should be in writing. We write to the ministry for audience. We've been given audience once, along with my partners officially, I mean. I've been there many times because I can walk in there and then speak to the minister. But for me, all the discussions we have, they completely change every time. You understand? So when he says communication, we want everything written so that we know how to act. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So the minister also made mention that the document is now at cabinet level.
Yeah.
Were you aware that it is at cabinet level, or you were aware after the press conference yesterday?
I was aware after the press conference. Okay. I obviously, understanding the scope of the situation, I knew that at some point maybe it might have to go through cabinet, which is fair. I think I have a high regard for the office of the president and along with his ministers. I think, what I just feel that should be done is also to ensure that, the positives of this project is clearly communicated. When we talk about telecommunications and we raise national security concerns only because it's Sonatel, for me is an issue, because this industry that we're in is not dominated by Gambians.
Yeah.
It is not. So if we're going to apply national security concerns for Zoom and Sonatel, we should apply it across board, because we have the AfriCells, we have the Comiums, we have the Q-cells, which, you know, we have Gambians participating, but not as majority. You understand? I am a young man, I'm only 36. If you keep emphasizing why Sonatel takes 91% of my company, that's where I am. I cannot force myself to own a 50% stake in a company that I cannot afford. So this is what, as a young Gambian, I can afford. In 10 years' time, I would go into other businesses where I would see my stake increase. So it's only logical. Yeah.
So do you see any foul play in it? Do you think, okay, there are big players in the market who are trying to stifle?
Those are not important, because for me, I believe that this country has laws. There will be people that have their interests. There will be people that want to protect their interests. But there are laws in this country. That's why I have never bothered to do that. I have seen what's been communicated in the media, that I feel like is coming from operators. Some are willing to compete, and we're willing to compete. We're only going to be an internet service provider. We're not a GSM company. We're not offering any other value-added services except internet service provision. That's where we want to start. That's where we see us adding a quota. So if anybody wants to compete, we compete together.
Okay. So one might also ask this question: why Zoom Wireless Gambia, okay, which is not well known, okay, you have big players in the market, and Sonatel choose Zoom Wireless Gambia?
Okay, that's a very interesting question, because you have to understand, in the corporate world, there's people that have a product and there are people that have an interest. Just like you go to the market, you cannot justify why I would buy from vendor A or vendor B, only because maybe vendor A has a bigger store, but maybe vendor B has a smaller store but can offer you exactly what you want and the type of service that you would want. So that's just an example. But Zoom Wireless, when we have a global vision where we want to be an impact company in the telecommunication sector, through my contacts, I have a dream. I think Gambia can afford a big player, a tier 1 player that can come in and then regularize our internet connectivity. We are all struggling. The problem I have is that every day you wake up, we're complaining. There's not a single day that anybody would not complain that they're having problems with their connectivity.
Yeah, I understand that people have their problem when it comes to connectivity, but are you not being used by people just to get, Sonatel or Senegalese people into the Gambian market, or are you not backed by President Barrow or, let's say, the government?
No, again, with all due respect, no one's backing me.
Okay.
The president, from when we met him in Senegal to introduce our project, was very happy. We've seen the relationship between Gambia and Senegal, and we've also all been to Senegal to see that Orange is actually playing a good part in terms of corporate social responsibility, delivery of service. Obviously, we want that for Gambia. So he encouraged us to ensure that this project becomes a reality. So no one used me, and I can tell you for sure that I have lawyers, reputable lawyers in the Gambia. Orange has reputable lawyers. So all of us, our interests are clearly protected. So there is no issue of anybody using anybody. This is a corporate world where companies can come together. We all have our interests. I want something bigger. They also want to be in Gambia. Our interests are aligned, and that's how we're in business. And so they did their due diligence. They're happy with me. Maybe they did their due diligence with other operators, and they're not happy with. Okay, Zoom is a company that they can come in. We're about to launch our services, and in telecoms, for big players to come in and buy maybe a big player and then have to change their culture and have to deal with, so many things. You would rather start from scratch, build a state-of-the-art network, and I must emphasize this. That is the beauty of what Zoom can offer Sonatel. That's why Sonatel are here.
Okay.
We have a license. That's all that matters.
Okay, you have licensing, but looking at the market also, it's a small market, we all know.
Definitely.
All right, it's a super small market, and then we have the Africells, you know, the QCells, the Chromiums, Gamcell, and then Zoom Wireless and Sonatel. Okay, and then looking at the economy, especially right now, we've been hit by COVID-19. Looking at comments made by the president, okay, regarding the Gambian economy right now. How are you people going to fare?
I want us to look at two things. If you look at the mobile penetration rate, Gambia is doing great because we have about 100 and something %. We're talking about fixed broadband. The penetration rate is 3%. 3% is a shambles even in Africa. So we want to come in and grow that percentage. What does that mean? It means that for people to have connectivity in their homes, not just on their mobile devices, because we know how expensive that is. It cannot sustain our demand and our need for internet. So that is where we want to come and play a part. We have more than 5 players, I believe. But the market currently is very small because all the 5 players want to operate in the Greater Banjul area and then charging some ridiculous prices. We want to say, you know what, if there are currently 5,000 homes in Gambia that are connected, we want to now make it 100,000, and by making sure that Gambia is not only Greater Banjul area. We have the Farafenyas, we have Koinas, point to point. That is what we want to do, and that we can really improve the lives in terms of agriculture. Farmers can research, can get data, can get information regarding what is happening. They can understand the weather. It will definitely impact the socio-economic development in many sectors.
Okay, so you telling me with the coming of Zoom Wireless and Sonatel, the cost of internet, let's say, is going to be down.
That's what we want. Yeah. That is what we aspire, because that's how we feel like we can come in and compete.
Yeah, because looking at right now, we've seen complaints on social media, that a particular GSM company has increased, their tariff on the internet, and then it's very expensive.
It is, and I want you to just compare when you go across the border, how much you're paying for data. Vis-a-vis how much you're paying for data in Gambia is ridiculous. So as Gambians, we have to love ourselves. We also have to want something better for ourselves. And how can we do this? Is to encourage competition. That's what this country is all about. Gambia is open. We've been under dictatorship, and even under dictatorship, why are we stopping something like this? We want Gambians to be able to afford internet at a cheaper price, which gives the Gambian a more disposable income to spend on other things. But if you're spending all your money on data, which in reality, if you look at the average salary, you must, and the way that we all, demand the internet daily, it means that you have to spend all your salary on internet. How does that make sense? How are we going to eat? That's where we want to just come in.
Okay, time is against us on the long time news review. What's your advice regarding telecommunication, internet, and all stuff?
I think again, it's good that the minister mentioned policy. I think we need to create policies that really encourage the prices and delivery of service to be fair to the Gambian. And for me, I see Gambia as a place where it can really boost our lives to be able to afford quality internet and to have access to internet. It will help our kids in this pandemic that we have today. Most of the complaints that I hear is, yes, the kids are supposed to go to school, they're supposed to do online classes, but we cannot afford internet. We don't even have maybe the right device to be able to for our kids to go to school. So we have to look at the things that are important to us. Maybe we're not at a stage where we would say, because of national security, we are not going to allow Sonatel. We're not there. We already have all these players here. They could be selling our data. Nobody knows. But let us look at what is important to us. What is our current need? When we get to a point where we need to start looking at detail of certain things, then we get to that. But for now, we have dire issues to resolve. And education for our kids is paramount.
Okay. So from here, let's say from next week, you're going to engage ministry?
No, currently we've engaged them enough. We'll just now wait for them to officially communicate. We've communicated with Pura as of September last year, and they told us where the document is. We've also written to the ministry to inquire about where the document is. We've not gotten a response. And we've requested a teleconference with the minister, which we did not get a response. So we'll wait and see until it goes to cabinet, and after cabinet, then they will communicate to us, and then we'll know our fate.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fall, for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sise.
Okay, thank you very much. That was Mr. Khalifa Fall, who is the founder and CEO of Zoom Wireless Gambia. Well, listeners and viewers, this comes to the end of the program right here on Star TV and also on Star FM radio. We're back. That's going to be another Saturday with my very self, Sarah Camara, and maybe my partner will be joining me. That is Young Jallo from the Korea newspaper. It's bye from us.